So, fresh off the hills of Bruce Springsteen going over to Europe and acting like a complete idiot that he is, going over and talking about a bunch of lies. And like I said in the podcast where I was talking about him, apparently he forgot, the last 4 years under Joe Biden and the Democrats when he's talking about dictators and things like that, and that freedom of speech is being threatened here in America, which is shockingly stupid to me. And apparently people believe it because a few liberals obviously watched that podcast and pretty much came out and said that what Bruce Springsteen was saying is absolutely true. Even though I gave them evidence that it wasn't true, I gave them proof. And I'll give you proof again. Right now, it's not true, okay? Donald Trump sucks. He's the worst president ever, and he's going to burn in hell. Now, let's see if I go to jail. I mean, I can wait here, and we'll see if somebody shows up at my door, because nobody will. Because freedom of speech is alive and well in America, and nobody's going to jail for it. And of course, that was just rhetoric, what I said. And I do not absolutely believe that. But I do, however, believe that Joe Biden was a complete idiot. And chances are he will rot in hell for what he did. And of course, I don't wish that on anybody to rot in hell. And, I don't know, maybe Joe Biden had a chance to repent. If he even understands what the word repent means anymore, since for the last, couple of years, he was not in charge of anything except maybe, the flavor of ice cream. And when it was time for poo-poo pants to be changed. That's probably about the only thing Joe Biden was completely aware of during the last 2 years. But, and I keep saying, oh my God, all these idiots out of Hollywood and these singers, these actors and actresses, you know what? Just shut up. Just shut up. Okay? Just shut up. I don't need your political opinions. I don't need to know where you stand on anything. What's that? And I've said this before, that moron that played Captain America, Chris, whatever his name is, I have no idea. Now, I got to give him credit. He actually did a good job of Captain America. And actually, out of all the Marvel movies, the first Captain America, the first Avenger, was actually one of my favorites. What is that dude's name? Chris? I don't know. Chris something. I think it's Chris. Hell, I don't know. But anyway, if y'all remember a couple years ago, there's a big tiff between this kid and CNN. And CNN, of course, told the wrong part of the story. And this Chris, Captain America, whatever his name is, comes out, and just heard the news of what CNN said and instantly ran with it on Twitter and went out there just bashing the shit out of this kid. And then a week later, the truth comes out to where, oh, oops, CNN was wrong. Who knew? And then, of course, this Chris, Captain America, whoever, never comes back and apologizes, never says anything. But this is my problem with liberals. One moron at the DNC, one AOC who's, I'm going to tell you now, on the grift. And I got a video coming up about that. AOC on the grift. Or, Tampon Timmy, or Drinks on the House Harris, they will come out and say something that's completely unfounded, completely untrue, and a Democrat will hear it. Well, let me rephrase that. A liberal will hear it, and a liberal will run with that story to no end. And they will go out there and tell everybody, and then every liberal who hears it goes out and repeats that story, even though it's not true. Because that's how liberals think. They're too lazy to do their own homework and to actually research something out to say, hey, is this true or is this not? They don't do that. And I know this because I've gotten into, countless arguments with liberals who are so uninformed. And as soon as you call them out on their bullshit and you prove to them that they're wrong, they instantly go to calling you names and raising their voice and yelling. Every time. Every single time. That is a liberal's MO. That is their MO. So, Bono apparently reads, or somebody says to him, the USAID cuts, 300,000 people dead. Okay, not true. Not true at all. Not even close to being true. Not even an inkling of that is true. And what does Bono do? Bonehead goes on Joe Rogan and makes this statement, not thinking that Joe Rogan is pretty tight with Elon Musk and literally has all the facts about everything that's going on. Bonehead goes on Joe Rogan and makes a statement, and Joe Rogan instantly comes back and he's like, don't know if that's exactly right or not, because what USAID, they did, there were some parts that did some good, but for the most part, it was a big money laundering scheme, which is exactly what it was. It was the Democrats funding insane projects of other Democrats, giving out insane loans so we can test if we can make a shrimp transgender. Stupid shit like that. That's literally what was going on there. It was a massive money laundering scheme, which the Democrats love. The Democrats love waste. They love anything they can throw money into because some of that money is going to get hidden and it's going to be unaccounted for. And I'm going to tell you right now, how the hell do you think somebody making $147,000 a year buys a $10 million house? How do you think that happens? Because of the money laundering scams that are going on. How many billions are unaccounted for in USAID? Hell, how many billions are unaccounted for in Ukraine? Ukraine, yes, it's a war. Yes, a lot of people are dying. Yes, it's a money laundering machine over there. A money laundering machine. Somebody somewhere, including Zelensky, is making a shit ton of money off that war. Just like a lot of Democrats made a lot of money off USAID. And that's why when Elon Musk started digging into it and started finding all the fraud, all the waste, he brought it to light. And what happened instantly? The first thing that happened is the Democrats lost their minds. Lost their minds. Now, if we're cutting waste and saving taxpayers' money, why would a Democrat get mad? Why? Is that not a good thing for everybody? Including their own constituents. Is that not a good thing? Is that not a good thing for America, for us to cut out fraud and waste in the government, our fat, bloated government? Is it not a good thing to do that? If it's a good thing, then why would the Democrats get mad? Or let me size this down. Why would the liberals get mad? Because the liberals are getting wealthy off of it. It is a scam. They know it's a scam. And if you want to piss off a liberal, find out where their dirty money is and cut that line off and watch how they react, which is exactly what they're doing right now. That is verbatim what they're doing. They're getting mad because we're cutting out fat. Well, the fat we're cutting out just happens to be lining a lot of their pockets, and that's why they're so pissed off. So Bonehead hears this, goes on Joe Rogan, makes this completely idiotic statement. Joe Rogan comes back and says, yeah, not really what's happening here. Not really what's happening. And what happened is Bonehead, he read, let me see here. He read, Bono's 300,000 figure comes not from confirmed deaths, but from a speculative model built by Brooke Nichols, a mathematical health modeler at Boston University, projecting what could happen as a result of the cuts. None of this has happened. None of it. But Bonehead goes out there and says, well, 300,000 people already dead. Oh, my God. From USAID, we told you so, we told you so. Trump's a dictator. He's a dictator. Trump's killing everybody. None of it's even happened. None of it. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch. Nada. Niet. Nine. None. Zero has happened. But Bonehead goes out being Bonehead and makes an idiotic statement just like this. Nichols has said that the number is a projection, not a direct count, due to the absence of real-time tracking in many affected regions. So in other words, she took some numbers, threw them together and said, 300,000 people could die. Bonehead reads this, somehow takes a projection into, oh shit, 300,000 people are dead. I've got to go out and be a liberal. I got to go out and make a statement. Tell the world. And basically look like an idiot, which you did. She continues on to say the biggest uncertainties in all of these estimates are, 1, the extent to which countries and organizations have pivoted to mitigate the disaster, likely highly variable. Go figure. 2, which programs are actually still funded with funding actually flowing and which aren't. And somehow, Bonehead sees this. Well, okay, one of two things happen. Either Bonehead read this, and somehow in his pea brain, because, if you, like most liberals, there's probably only 1 or 2 synapses happening up there anyway, sees this and says, oh shit, 300,000 people are dead. Or sees this and says, you know what? 300,000 people are going to die. Actually, they probably died yesterday. This model's probably already been proven true, and they probably died yesterday, so I'm just going to go out and look like a complete idiot, which he did. But more than likely, some other nut job liberal read this, threw it out there, he heard it, and he does what liberals do. They repeat the nonsensical. They repeat their untruths, just like Joe Biden's fine. Joe Biden's sharp as a tack. This version of Joe Biden is the best version of Joe Biden. And that's according to Morning Joe Scarborough, who told everybody they can just F off because Joe Biden's at his best right now, regardless of what you see. Your eyes are lying to you. Your eyes are lying. So Joe Scarborough goes out and says that, and then all these little liberates run out and say the same thing. Joe Biden, sharp as a tack. This is the best version of Joe Biden. Joe Biden could not walk in a line. Joe Biden could not walk through sand. He could barely get his beach chair open. Joe Biden shakes hands with dead people when he's not looking for dead people that apparently he was just talking to. All right? But everybody said, one person, Joe Biden's doing fantastic. And then all the morons went out and spreaded the lie. And apparently Bono is one of the morons. Go figure. Go figure. And it's just hilarious to me that this has been happening since Obama. Since Obama. One liberal will say something completely untrue, and then 1,000 liberals will go out and just run with it. Well, it gets even better because after Bonehead made his statement on Joe Rogan, and I'm going to tell you now, if I ever ended up on Joe Rogan, I would make sure that my shit was tight. Because if I'm going to talk about the government, talking to Joe Rogan, who's had Elon Musk on that show how many times, and Donald Trump, and it wouldn't surprise me if somewhere Joe Rogan has a direct line to everything that's going on. That would not surprise me at all. You better make sure your story's right. Because Joe Rogan's going to call you out on your bullshit just like he did you, Bono. Okay? You didn't make sure your story was right. Because like I said, liberals are too lazy to do their own homework and actually search out the truth. They're too lazy. They only go by what they hear. They never go by what they know. Never. So Bonehead goes on Joe Rogan and says, stupid shit. Elon Musk tweets back, he's such a liar/idiot. 0 people have died. Okay, well, you know what? Yeah, that's true. That's true. You kind of look like a fool, Bono. You look like a complete idiot. Then, of course, Cat Turd. Does anybody know who the hell Cat Turd is? I go on X every once in a while. I'm not a big Xer. I hated Twitter. I thought Twitter was just liberal trash. But Cat Turd comes back. I agree 100% with Elon Musk that Bono is an idiot and a liar. And, it is something I never thought I would say, but I agree with Cat Turd. I believe Bono is a complete idiot and a liar. So on there, somebody else wrote, they've made this 300,000 number up and propagandized people with it. And that's what liberals do. And I'm right. And even if you're a liberal, especially the liberals that said, because, a couple of y'all got on my last channel about dipshit Bruce Springsteen and said, Bruce Springsteen is your hero. My friend, you're in desperate need of some new heroes. If Bruce Springsteen is your hero, you're in desperate need of some new heroes. That kind of shocked me when I read that. Man, because Bruce Springsteen is like, when I go in the backyard and step in my dog's poo. Yeah, that's about the same as Bruce Springsteen to me. To call him a hero, that's, I know heroes. I know heroes. Worked in the hospital for many years. I've seen doctors pull off some just crazy shit and save people's lives. People that should not have lived, that somehow we got them to pull through. Yeah, I consider those people heroes, okay? Or the fireman that runs into the burning building to save somebody's dog, to save some little girl's dog. I call that a hero. I call that a hero. I don't call some liberal sack of shit that stands on a stage 3,000 miles away and makes fun of the very country that gives him the freedom to go 3,000 miles away and speak the bullshit that he speaks. All right? I don't call that a hero. I call that a hypocrite. That's what I call. Bruce Springsteen is a hypocrite. He's a sissy. He's a little boy. He didn't have the balls to do it here in the States. At least Bono manned up and had the nuts to do it here in the States on Joe Rogan's show. Now, in defense of Bonehead, in defense of him, he was just being an idiot, wasn't checking what little bad information that he had, and he just ran with it, as most liberals do. Bruce Springsteen actually went across the pond and spouted out a bunch of shit that he has no idea what he's talking about. None whatsoever. And the liberals believe him. Just like the liberals will believe Bono, even though this didn't even have to be debunked because it doesn't even exist. But how many liberals are going to run around the streets of America screaming that 300,000 people have died because of Donald Trump and the USAID cuts?